From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Little pests have already arrived.
They are hungry, so they are looking for their first meal of the year.
What you need to do to protect yourself from ticks. A good news update about the drought situation as more planters start to roll. And looking to market cattle right now?
There's a good chance that this will moderate a little bit in the next few days or weeks.
Some advice as concerns continue to swirl around an avian flu outbreak right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the name on the cap matches the power of one's purpose. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Mexico has announced it's increasing surveillance and inspections of U.S. livestock. That's after confirmation of avian flu in dairy cattle now in 6 states. Now, Mexico is a major market for U.S. dairy and beef products. AgDay's Michelle Rook is continuing to follow this story. Michelle, one thing the cattle market doesn't like is uncertainty, and that's just what this virus has brought.
Clinton, it's really more about the unknowns about HPAI and cattle and the impact it might have on things like live animal exports. It is having a negative knee-jerk reaction on the futures on any given day and really increased volatility. Now, the good news is it doesn't look like it's having the same effect on the cash market.
The spread of HPAI in dairy cows has had a bigger impact on beef cattle futures than the milk markets or even the cash markets for fed and feeder cattle. Futures traders fear export bans or consumer demand faltering. However, Oklahoma State University's Daryl Peel says the futures have overreacted, as this isn't a threat to the U.S. food supply or meat or dairy exports.
On the beef side, we haven't really seen any impacts directly in terms of beef cows or anything like that. The impact right now has been contained to the futures market, and there's really no reason to think that there's any, broader health concerns or anything. Very, very low risk in terms of beef supplies or dairy products or anything like that. So there's no reason for a huge reaction, but there's just a lot of unknowns about exactly what's going on and how the details will work out.
Peel stresses the cash market has been holding together, which is a sign of a stronger overall market. So he suggests cattle producers also try not to overreact when making marketing decisions.
If you're trying to market cattle right now, there's a good chance that this will moderate a little bit in the next few days or weeks. So if you can postpone maybe some marketings until we see how this shakes out, there's a good chance, although it's not for sure, that this thing will turn out to be less of an issue.
However, he says it emphasizes the need for beef producers to have solid risk management plans in place because these types of setbacks can take place even in a strong market. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. And the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention also putting the word out that while there is no major threat to humans or a massive spread of avian flu virus, it wants more people to get tested, specifically those who have been exposed to the virus or have symptoms. It says the person in Texas who tested positive last week worked on a farm and had direct contact with an infected dairy cow. And while it says the virus can be found in milk from sick cows, there's no threat to humans given most milk is pasteurized. The organization is warning, though, about drinking raw milk, saying it can pose a serious health risk. Several ag industries also working to calm any consumer fears about avian flu, continuing to say the nation's food supply is safe. Field work in the Midwest is expected to accelerate in the next couple of weeks, and farmers are starting the season in a better situation with regards to moisture. Now take a look at the latest drought monitor. It shows the area in drought is now the smallest since 2020. A wet winter and early spring helping push drought in the continental United States down to 18%. That's half of what it was at the start of winter and the least amount of drought since May of 2020. Just 1% of the U.S. is in the worst 2 categories of drought right now, D3 or D4. That said, parts of Iowa, southern New Mexico, southwest Texas, and western Montana remain some of the driest areas still battling long-term drought conditions. And great news for several western states, courtesy of the latest snowpack survey in the Sierras. California's Department of Water Resources says the statewide snowpack water equivalent is 28.6 inches or 110% of April 1st average. That's a significant improvement from just 28% of average back on January 1st. The state says the focus now shifts to forecasting spring snowmelt runoff and capturing as much of that water as possible for future use. Winter weather isn't over just yet. Maine bracing for a nor'easter forecast to blanket the state in up to 22 inches of snow. That follows widespread driving rain and tornadoes this week across much of the country. The storm system has already dropped several suspected tornadoes in Alabama, West Virginia, Tennessee, Illinois, and Kentucky. 2 people were killed and hundreds of thousands left without power following those high winds and rain. And that's not the end of the snowfall for the Northeast. Meteorologist Martin Lorimore joins us with an update.
Yeah, we're still paying attention to a little bit of that snow out toward the parts of the Northeast. This low pressure system making its way out of the region as we head into this Friday and into our Saturday this weekend. Looking a little bit better as this low continues its way out. Also getting a little bit of that warmth kind of filtered in. Cooler areas across parts of the Great Lakes, especially the closest to Lake Michigan, Lake Superior. You're going to be seeing temperatures a little bit cooler than you've been seeing for the past couple of days. But we're already looking at our next low pressure system. We're getting some snow across the higher elevations of the Four Corners region and of course places in the Rockies, seeing more of that snowfall continuing its way as we go into our weekend. This will continue its way into parts of the central U.S. The Great Plains going to start seeing this big cold front swinging its way through, and this is going to be bringing in some decent showers, maybe a couple rumbles of thunder as well, though temperatures a little bit cooler on the other side of this cold front. Could bring in a little bit of that snowfall into parts of the Central Plains as well. And we got moisture falling from the sky in Kansas. Corbin Cat of Cat and Crew Farms showing us some of the snow coming down at his farm near Overland Park. Not a great day to get some planting done for sure, so maybe holding off on that just for a few more days. I'll have more in your forecast coming up.
A group of Texas farmers has filed suit against USDA's disaster assistance and pandemic relief programs, alleging that the aid is being distributed based on sex and race. The lawsuit, filed last week in the district court for the Northern District of Texas, it targets 8 government-funded programs rolled out between 2020 and 2022. Now, those programs are meant to provide financial assistance to ag producers affected by natural disasters like wildfires, droughts, as well as things like the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the farmers in this case claim USDA is prioritizing minority groups, while non-minority groups of farmers are getting less government aid. The suit alleges this unfairly benefits specific demographics, violating the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause. Now, USDA has yet to respond. The farmers are represented by attorneys from the Southeastern Legal Foundation and Mountain States Legal Foundation. Earlier this week, President Biden and China's President Xi Jinping spoke on the phone about trade relations. Now, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in China as well, working to stabilize those relations and discuss the global economy. Secretary Yellen addressing concerns about industrial overcapacity there in China, pointing to solar panels and electric cars as examples. This amid reports of increasing industrial debt in China. President Xi also warning President Biden against measures aimed at containing China's trade and technological development, adding that its export growth in green energy sectors is meeting market demand. Now, Secretary Yellen's itinerary includes several stops and talks with high-profile leaders before heading home next week. Earlier this week, we updated you on the reintroduction of gray wolves into Colorado. Now, wildlife officials are confirming a calf has died, marking the first death since the wolves were reintroduced into the state. Now, they say a rancher in Grand County found the dead calf on Tuesday. One wildlife manager saying they found multiple tooth rake marks on the calf's hindquarters and neck and other injuries consistent with it being attacked by a wolf. Colorado Parks and Wildlife confirming the wolf or wolves involved were part of the 10 animals that were reintroduced back in December. Those wolves were from packs in Oregon that were known to have killed livestock in 2022 and 2023. Livestock markets were back in the green on Thursday. We'll take a look at the factors behind it coming up next in Markets Now. And later, as temperatures warm up, ticks are on the move. Some advice for those working outdoors this spring in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels provides a 13 bushel advantage per acre in no-till and a 7 bushel advantage per acre in conventional. Do you have enough room in your bin to switch to the Germinator?
Corn futures continue to post some small gains on Thursday, while private exporters reported sales of more than 5.5 million bushels of soybeans for delivery to Mexico. But it wasn't enough to move the needle up on soybeans. Michelle Rook is back with more in Markets Now.
Markets mostly higher on Thursday with the exception of soybeans. Jeff Hogendarn with Professional Ag Marketing is back with us. All right, Jeff, let's talk about the grain trade. We feel like we're searching for direction there. We kind of hold support technically, but we can't take out resistance either.
Yeah, it's very much in a sideways trend here for sure. I've been a little bit impressed with the corn here, Michelle. I mean, we've taken all of our gains back from that what I thought was a pretty bullish report, I guess, last week. So that's obviously disappointing. But the way just the last couple days, I know we're grasping at straws a little bit, but it sounds like we, found some pretty good support here. Now we've kind of acting like we want to build off that. And I wonder if I don't know if we can quite get back towards the top end of the range even. I'm a little bit concerned here going forward, going into next week. How much planning progress are we going to start to see? I think we're going to start to see some of the way the forecast looks, and I'm afraid that's going to be a bit on the negative side.
So, Jeff, do you think the funds stay short during planting season, or at what point do they feel like they need to put some risk premium back into the market?
I suspect you're going to see them wanting to exit a bigger portion of their position as you get to the back half of April. I think that's a very fair observation.
Cattle market did see a bit of a recovery rally on Thursday. Do you think that's all we get is one-day recovery rallies here and amid all this news about HPAI?
I'm blown away by the stories that we're seeing out there. We got some more out today on the whole flu situation. So where's the next time when funds just come in here and want to sell cattle? I'm not crossing that off the list of possibilities, unfortunately. And I think if they whack us one more time, then I'm going to start looking at those December lows. I hate saying that, Michelle, but that's where my eyes are going to turn. If we have another $4 or $5 down day, I'm going to get pretty nervous that we're just going to keep eroding this thing. But and I'm not saying that's the most likely scenario. It's one of the things that worries me.
Thanks for joining us, Jeff Hogendarn, Professional Ag Marketing. And for more analysis, go to my Markets Now 5.
Yeah, the snow depth currently across most of the U.S. is sitting, of course, in place usually expected out toward a lot of the Rockies, seeing highest elevations, upwards, possibly seeing feet of snow out there. Good for a lot of those ski resorts for sure, but once you get to those lower elevations, it drops off quickly. Haven't seen the central part of the U.S. seeing a little bit of that snow in about a week now, but places over toward the eastern portion of the country have seen it. You can see several inches across parts of Minnesota, the UP of Michigan, and of course, plenty of Wisconsin has seen a decent amount of that little snowfall. You can see about 3-6 inches on the ground there. And then the freshly dropped snow across parts of New England, stretching all the way into Newfoundland as well. Plenty of snow has fallen across the eastern U.S. in the past day or so, and it's going to be mostly coming to an end as we go throughout the rest of this Friday. Still seeing a couple more inches dropping as we get into our Friday and Saturdays, but already eyeing that next system into our west, seeing this snowfall making its way into parts of the Rockies and even those lower areas that are going to be close to the Rockies base. But noticing that snow kind of stops right about when it gets to the Dakotas and Nebraska. That's when the elevation drops off and it changes over to rain, which it's not going to be completely stopping the moisture. We'll start seeing that rainfall as we head into this next couple of days. So you can see this area of high pressure right here. It's keeping the central part of the country nice and warm, but we're kind of wedged between these two low pressure systems. This one's going to be on its way out, other one on its way in. So your area see with this little ridge right here, it's going to be getting quite warm. So this ridge slowly eroding little by little as this low catches up to the other one, but still this area in the orange and red here across parts of the Great Lakes and our Sunday going to be sitting pretty warm, but rain chances are going to start making their way in by the time we get into that Monday. So if you're going to be going out for the eclipse, might be a little bit of difficulty to see it in parts of Minnesota and of course in Wisconsin. But temperatures are expected to be warmer on the other side of that low pressure system, staying on the moisture side, staying on the wetter side for those places ahead of it, watching for drier air moving in the west. Mason City, Iowa, high 52, looking mostly sunny skies for that Friday. Grenada, Mississippi, high pretty warm in the upper 60s. Finally, Rigby, Idaho, not so sunny, looking for rain, high 57.
New technology and new tools are rolling out. We have the latest smart farming options next. And later, being smart about keeping ticks at bay as these creepers emerge early this season. Details in Ag for Your Health. Farmers are continually looking for new technologies to help them control pests. And in this era of smart farming, they are finding it. A new herbicide for cereal grain has been announced by Corteva. Tolvera recently received registration by the EPA for use on spring and winter wheat, durum, and barley. Now, it will control a wide spectrum of broadleaf weeds and grasses.
Tolpurolate brings grass control, so foxtail and barnyard grasses. Really important to control, and it also brings fast knockdown of some tough broadleaves like water hemp. So we're very excited about this product. It tank mixes easily and fits into what wheat growers are looking for in terms of weed control.
Tolvera uses a new active herbicide ingredient for weed control.
Anytime you're able to introduce a new active ingredient, that kind of perks up people's ears as we continue to look for new ways to hold down the development of resistance and change up modes of action against the weeds that we're fighting.
Now, Hubbard says the herbicide can be applied starting at the one-leaf stage up through jointing, which leaves a wide window for control in cereal crops. It will be available for the 2025 growing season. USDA is announcing it's allocating $1.5 billion for climate-smart ag conservation. The money will come from the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. Now, it says the investments aim to assist farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners in adopting and expanding conservation strategies to improve natural resources while addressing the climate. USDA says the funding will help farmers save money, generate new revenue streams, and enhance productivity. That funding is part of the Inflation Reduction Act. And one oil giant is announcing a milestone when it comes to renewable diesel. Phillips 66 announcing its facility in San Francisco. The Rodeo Renewable Energy Complex is now processing only renewable feedstocks, and it says it's producing about 30,000 barrels a day of renewable diesel. It says the complex is on track to increase production to more than 800 million gallons per year of renewable fuels by the end of the second quarter of this year. It says that facility will also start producing renewable jet fuel. The San Francisco refinery was recently converted into what it says is one of the world's largest renewable fuels facilities. Well, as those temperatures rise, pests are starting to emerge. That includes ticks. These critters are out earlier than normal. Some advice on dealing with them next in Ag for Your Health. Tick season has already arrived, and if you're like me, you've already started finding them on your clothing. In fact, these creatures are out earlier than usual. In today's Ag for Your Health, what you need to know to keep you and your family safe. In the U.S., tick season usually peaks between May and July, and then again in the fall. But it's April, and ticks are already out.
They are hungry, so they are looking for their first meal of the year, and they do pose that risk of transmitting infection.
Dr. Bobby Pritt with Mayo Clinic says you can help prevent tick bites. Check your body often, especially after working outdoors. Wearing long sleeves with pants tucked in can help give ticks less skin to bite. Also, it doesn't hurt to wear bug spray.
Usually we look for tick repellents that have at least 30% DEET, but there are other chemicals, picaridin, is a very good repellent.
If you do get bitten, Pritt says not to panic. Remove the tick as quickly as possible.
The best way to do that is with tweezers that you can use close to the skin, as close as possible. Grasp the head of the tick as it's going into the skin and just pull it out in a slow, continuous motion, taking care to not squeeze the tick or breaking off the mouth parts if you can help it.
And Dr. Pritt says if you live in an area where Lyme disease is present and find a swollen tick attached to your skin, consider seeing a doctor, especially if it's been attached for 36 hours or more.
Your doctor can prescribe antibiotics to prevent Lyme disease.
And be aware of the symptoms of Lyme disease, including fever, body aches and pains, upset stomach, severe headache, and fatigue. And the doctors say you may want to avoid those home remedies, including smothering the tick with Vaseline or using a match. Doctors say that will irritate the skin and the tick and potentially increase the risk of infection. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.